Hey everyone, it's Austin, and welcome to Back to Basics, a Commander podcast. I'm joined today by Jason.
Hello.
Alex.
Hello.
And Kalen.
That's good.
And we're just going to bring a bunch of weird Commander topics for you today. But up first, we have our best card you're not playing. And so today is Kalen for that one. So Kalen, why don't you give us a card that we should be playing more of?
Yeah, so kind of in honor of Kaldheim bringing back the Praetor, a Praetor, only one. But in honor of that, I will talk about the most underrated Praetor of all time, and that would be Urbrask the Hidden. So for all those that don't know, Urbrask the Hidden is 3 red for a 4/4 legendary creature Praetor. I assume they're gonna errata that to Phyrexian Praetor.
It is, yeah. I think
all the Praetors are Phyrexian.
So Phyrexian Praetor. It says creatures you control have haste, and creatures your opponent controls enter the battlefield tapped. It's a pretty simple card.
Yeah.
And it's a great stacks piece for mono red decks and decks that don't have white or blue. It's just really good.
Why does he look like a Myr?
Maybe that's on purpose. I assume like a lot of the Phyrexians from the Forge are like corrupted Myr.
I'll look on screen at the card. Why does he look like a Myr?
Well, maybe it's on purpose. He does live in a giant forge. He does live in a giant forge.
Yeah, he'd probably be metallic-ish in nature. I don't know. It's a cool card though. I don't know how often it's played, but it's really great for if you want to play an aggressive deck that kind of.
You probably have some metrics for it, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, Kalen, what percentage of decks is it played in?
Oh, statistics from oh my gosh, statistics from EDH Rex. Statistics from EDH Rec are that this card is in 5,750 out of 229,968 decks that is eligible to be played in, which is about 3%. It's also only commander of 67 decks, which is 0.0014% of all red commander decks.
Jeez.
Mono red.
Fair.
Yeah, it's not played a lot as a commander. I wouldn't necessarily play it as a commander. Decks I would play it in the 99 of, though, are far more numerous. You can put it in your Atali deck to make your Atali stronger and to weaken your opponent's plays against you. You can put it in your Nikia of the Old Ways deck, as that deck is typically big/medium red to make your threats go fast.
Yeah.
And you can also put it in your Rurik Thar the Unbowed Death and Taxes deck, which is a really cool deck that hopefully we get to talk about someday.
I
like
agree.
that deck.
I keep bringing it up because it's one of my actually favorite decks. But no, this is a great deck. We were talking about it's kind of sort of a semi-stacks piece that you are making your creatures your opponent's control enter tapped. If you're playing a big beady kind of strategy, then you're able to hit it with your hasted creatures, and they aren't going to necessarily be able to block that turn, and it can really throw off some of their blocking. This is a great card through and through. Good choice.
You can also put it in your Dao Chan Artful Beauty deck if you want to be a pain in the ass.
Now we're just reaching. We're reaching deep. All right.
Yeah.
No, it gives your Dao Chan can then tap.
Dao Chan is a nuts commander.
On the turn she enters,
you
can tap Dao Chan to do the thing.
She's wearing lightning greaves with that outfit. Oh yeah, every time.
Also,
dude. That's a pair. That's like peanut butter jelly. Is Dao Chan and lightning greaves.
Also, you can put it in your Heartless Hitotsuga deck.
Oh god.
Yep.
And deal half of that someone's
damage.
Just be like, half.
If you
it's each player.
It's each player. Do you know that if you activate it twice and then
everyone
cast Hitsegu second right, you kill somebody?
Sure can.
Hitsegu second right. What a beautiful card. Anyway, speaking of dumb things you can do.
All right, who's going to build second right turbo?
Oh no!
Do you want me to? I'll get you a list, my dude. That'll be fast.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, it's Jund, and you have you also use what's it
Big
called?
Sorin and the spell that does it.
Big Sorin, the spell that makes somebody get knocked to 10. You get Grove of the Burn Willows, so you can control your opponent's life total, and you play Triskaidekaphobia because you're a monster. So it works.
Yeah, I like that.
Done deal.
Perfect. Anyway, speaking of dumb things you can do in Commander, today we're going to talk about something that might be a little unknown to some people, especially now, because they don't talk about it very much, and it's a very old thing. But we're talking about Rule 0. So rule 0, Kalen, if you want to read it off word for word, you definitely can.
Rule 0. Basically, it was on their page. I don't know if it is anymore, but it used to just. So here's basically the rundown. Local groups are welcome to modify the commander rules as they see fit. If you'd like an exception to these rules, especially in an unfamiliar environment, please get the approval of the other players before the game begins. So basically, it says the rules for commander are more like guidelines. You don't have to specifically follow them.
And
like you don't have to listen to the ban list or like what a
silver
commander
border
can
cards
be.
or gold border cards or anything else like that.
First things first, gold border cards, perfect options. This survival of the fittest is way cheaper than the normal one.
Honestly, people that are like, you
agree.
can't play gold border cards, that's not allowed. I'm like, it's commander.
Yeah,
I get really annoyed at people who don't. Yeah.
About me personally, so I break the rules, or I follow rule 0 quite a bit because I have a commander deck that has a planeswalker as a commander. That is not one of the ones that's allowed to be a planeswalker commander. I have Tameo, Collector of Tales. But I also, in a couple of different decks, I use gold border cards because I personally, and yes, they're cheaper, I understand, but I could afford a normal, like I can go out and buy Survival of the Fittest. I don't care about money. That's not an issue for me. What I care about is the fact that I really like the way that the gold border looks. I think it's very pretty. Like it kind of highlights the card really well. I think it makes the card look unique. Like it's almost like an altar to me. I really enjoy it. So I don't understand this notion of like why it's not allowed in a lot of places. Like especially as someone who also follows and plays Canadian Highlander, like they allow gold border cards because it helps get people like into that format and stuff. I just never understood the notion that you weren't allowed to do it. And I guess it kind of goes along the same lines as like proxies too, right? Like a lot of people are against proxies, but I think that's, I don't know. Personally, I understand it if you don't want to play against somebody that just has like the back of a basic land that says like Time Twister on it. But like
I always
if you
love it.
put some effort into playing either a gold border card or like a good looking proxy or something, let them do it. Let people play Magic the way you want.
Also,
I think
with proxies, there's like the try before you buy aspect.
Yeah,
I think let people know beforehand that hey, I am proxying X amount of cards in my deck.
Yeah,
it's very gatekeepy to me to be like you have to spend a lot of money in order to play, especially when you get it to like really competitive decks and really like CDH where like deck lists are several $1,000s usually on average. I think it's very gatekeeping to be like, well, you have to spend this money or otherwise whatever. Like it's kind of like vintage. Most vintage players are like, yes, please proxy. I want to play vintage, and
that's
expensive.
a notion that like didn't really make any sense to me either. Where like CD and like unless you come from a place where there's a big CDH crowd, I've never understood this idea that like, nope, you have to spend money to build a CDH deck, and it's like, all right, so I guess I won't join your CDH group of 4 people. Like I'll just,
Yeah, most people in the CDH community are like they're 100% for it. Like, go for it. Just make sure they
want
decent.
more people to play with.
Yeah,
I agree.
As long as if I'm sitting at the table, right? If we're layout table, I'm just going to use this forever. If we're sitting at a table and Alex is a card that's proxied, as long as I can tell what card it is from across the table, I don't care about your proxy, right? I just want to know what it is, so I can look at the table quickly and know what it is, and that's fine. So as long as it's not like it doesn't, just a piece of paper or something in the sleeve that just says like Time Twister, whatever. Like you put a little bit of effort into your proxies and it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's super cheap to get off a printed, even an entire deck, and then cut out the sheets and put them in. I can understand people who don't want you to just proxy up a new deck every other week and it be like some CDH list and then you're not in like a CDH area or something like that. Like I can understand where you might want to be like, hey, can you try and limit the proxies to, like percentage of your 10 of your cards of your deck or something like that. Or unless of course you're playing something really high level. I get that. If you're throwing, Time Twister and Tabernacle into every single deck and you mainly play with more kitchen table-y type people, it's kind of not
it's just
nice
kind of a
thing
mean
to do.
thing to do. Yeah,
it's very rude.
Notion, I think.
I get that notion, but I think that's an extreme, and I don't think there's a lot of people who do that. And I mean, if anyone's listening, if you have someone who does that often, talk to them, or I honestly would just avoid them. Like I don't understand the need to do that.
Yeah, never really understood. I don't know. But I've always been for proxies, especially like a long time ago. like 6 or 7 years ago or something. I was playing a game of Commander, and I sat down at the table, and we were playing like the 4 or 5 of us that played every single week. There was me who like I bought somebody a sandwich at the college's convenience store so that he would give me a $5 Magic card in return because I couldn't afford buying a $5 Magic card, right? So we were at like that point in the game, and he had like $4,000 worth of a deck where it just had like foiled out everything and full duels, and he had an Angus Mackenzie deck that was just completely foiled out.
Yeah, the classic.
The deck was like $2,800 or something. It was ridiculous. But I was just like, would you guys be mad if I proxied up a Dark Depths because I want to try it out? And then he looks at me and goes, dude, I have never cared about you proxying a card ever, and I really would appreciate it if you bought or proxied out a card that's $50 before you buy it and find out that it's not good for your deck, right? And it was a really good, like, I don't know, it's something that stuck with me a lot because like from then on out I was like, yeah, it makes sense that you should proxy up a card before you buy it because it could just suck in your deck. You know, you just don't know.
Yeah, or even an entire deck if you're like, I really want to build this, but
I
have
know
a
if
list.
Good.
It's a couple $100, and I only have a couple of these cards. Maybe I want to try out and see if it's fun or not first. Because I mean, there's decks out there. Or I've been like, that looks cool, and then I'm like, oh, that actually isn't that fun. And
or something that lines up too. So like even now, like sometimes I haven't done it in a few weeks, but like people come over on Fridays, we play Magic, right? Or like normally our shop's Commander night is what, Thursday nights or whatever.
Yeah.
Used to be
So
Thursday, yeah.
people would, you could order a card for your deck, right? And then you're like, well, I gotta go to Commander. It hasn't come yet. So you proxy up the card. You get there and you're like, yeah, this is probably like sitting in my mailbox right now because it showed up after I left to come to Commander or whatever. Or like it's going to be here tomorrow. And so I couldn't play with the card, but I don't want it to show up and then wait an entire week just to play the card or whatever. Like there's so many different reasons where I think proxies are like totally fine, to the point where as long as you have some effort that you've put forward to make the card like understand, like people can see what it is and know what it is, or you're putting forward the effort where like, I'm going to buy this, it's either in the mail right now or I'm double checking to make sure it's still good in the deck before I purchase it. Like I don't like the idea that you've had a proxied like Tabernacle in every single deck you've ever played, but I do 100% agree with like proxying a few cards where you're testing them or you're still looking to pick them up or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Or even you're just trying to match the power level that you're at.
That too. Yeah.
If you're always consistently the lowest power level and you're on a budget and you really just can't compete, and yes, there are very powerful budget decks. I mean, I've talked about one in a previous episode, but that might just not be your play style, or maybe you just want to do something else. As long as you're like equal in level with everyone else that you normally play with, or you try and keep it as like that powerful deck so you can bring it out, I think that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
If you're trying to spike your play group with proxies all the time, I think that's a very
I think you're just being a jerk at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Or another thing with like, if you are the person in the league that has these several $100 or even $1,000 cards, make proxies of them so you don't, especially if you don't feel comfortable walking around with, say, a Tabernacle or a Time Twister.
Oh, I don't. Yeah.
Or a Cradle.
I have both a Tabernacle and a Time Twister, and I have them proxied out. And I've had one person ever be like, you can't play that. That's a proxy. I'm like, if you think I'm walking in here with my Tabernacle, you're crazy. No.
The other thing I think is a very important takeaway. I'm sorry, Kalen. We keep like interrupting you.
No, you're good.
But I think a very important thing to note here too is that those exact same people, those people that have thousands of dollars put into their Commander decks, the people that put a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of time into those decks, stop gatekeeping the people that can't afford it. Like, I think, like, every single time I've ever had an issue with someone who's like, well, I don't like proxies, it's the people who have a disposable income that is so giant that they just go spend as much money as they want. Yeah, it just doesn't matter to them, right? They can buy 12 boxes of Magic card or a Magic set or whatever willy-nilly. like
Mhm.
whenever they want. And that, I think those people are the ones that cause the issues with proxies, and they should stop.
I agree.
Yeah.
Nope, I agree completely. As someone who owns a large part of the reserve list, I cannot stand when someone is like, "Well, you don't own the cards, therefore you can't play it." And I'm just like, that's so gatekeepy. That's so wrong. And I think I've because that was a situation at a previous shop I'd been at. I think I told someone like, "It's okay, you can just borrow mine." And like, I didn't give him the card, but I'm like, if he gives you crap, he can come over and I can show it to him in the binder or whatever. Because like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Stop gatekeeping. Let everyone enjoy the game. It's fun.
There's a T-shirt that is put out by Critical Role, and it's about D&D, but it also kind of applies here, and it's the stop telling people how to have fun, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's such an important like message where like if they want to have fun doing the thing that they want to do, let them do it. Like just stop. And that's a big takeaway from this episode in general, not just about proxies, but like if you
With Rule 0,
if you see a table where they're playing and they're playing like with a command with a like homemade card or a custom card as their commander, right? Or one of them is playing like Sway of the Stars, or like one of them is like if they're playing a banned card or they're playing a card that's not allowed to be your commander, right? Don't stop them from having fun because clearly they started a game where they're having fun.
Yeah.
Right? And I've played, how many times have I played Tamiyo now? Like a few, right?
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
a single one of those games has it felt like that card being my commander has been a problem. In my own personal opinion.
You and I have both built commander decks that use non-legendary creatures. I can't remember the name of the one you did, but it's the Naya.
Tamanoa? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have
that card's sweet.
Nephilim.
Or Nephilims, yeah. Nephilims as commanders. Like, first off, they should have been legendary anyway.
Yeah.
They're Nephilims, for freak's sake. But
Yeah.
regardless of that, like, they're also... They were the first 4-color creatures to ever exist, so, like, not allowing them as your commander just didn't make any sense to me. They should have been as an option. It's the same thing with, like, Genju of the Realm. From, I think it's Betrayers of Kamigawa.
That's the one that, like, it's a legendary
It's a legendary or a
land.
land. It's an enchant land. Yeah, it makes it into an 8/12 when you enchant a land, which means that, A, you could never win with commander damage, which I think is something that a lot of people overlook for a lot of cards like that. Like, if I play Tamiyo as my commander, you're not dying to commander damage. Like, unless someone plays March of the Machines and Mycos and Lattice, I'm never dealing commander damage, and I don't play either of those cards, so I'm not doing it. Right? Like it just doesn't.
Right.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah.
I mean, this is all kind of wrapped up in Rule 0, but like even silver border cards, some of them are fine to play in commander or as a commander.
Most silver border cards are fine. Yeah, there are a few that are like a little bit, but I mean, like the cheese stands alone is literally just another like they made that into Magic.
Bearing Glory.
It's just Bearing Glory.
I really like a lot of like the dice rolling.
Yeah,
I think they're cool.
Or what's the 5-color guy, the mutate guy? Like whenever you cast a mutate or a
I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah,
Dr. Julius Jumblemorph
No, Julius Jumblemorph is the green-white dude, I think.
1 second.
He's the dinosaur one. That's fine.
He's the dinosaur one that deals with what do they call it? It's like the fuse monsters. It's like mutate before mutate. The host creatures and stuff. Yeah.
All right.
I think it's cool, especially if you've cleared it, of course, with the table. This is, of course, all what Rule 0 is about, right? And
which one?
Yeah, he is.
And we're talking about all the different things that you can clear up with Rule 0, but like I love like Alexander Clamilton. I love that card.
Oh
I think
we were talking about that.
A dumb card. I've been working on a list for a little bit, and obviously, like I can only play it with certain people who are okay with it. But like the card doesn't. For those of you who are not familiar with this card, whenever you cast a wordy spell, scry 2. A spell is wordy if it has 4 or more lines of text, and you can pay 1 in a red to choose target creature you don't control. Reveal the top card of your library. Alexander Clamilton gets +X+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of lines of rules on the text of the reveal card, and then it fights that creature. Like it's a dumb card.
Do you know how to break that card?
What?
Sagas.
Yeah, right.
Because your
God.
text box is super narrow, so there's a lot of lines of text.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, I love it. And like that would be really fun
Or
to play like an Is It
the
Sagas
owl
list.
that
Yeah.
Kalen's built, like Night and Day Tribal or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the
Oh,
owl
day-
or
Time of
whatever.
Day
Time of Day
Tribal?
Tribal. It's just like the like Night and Day thing or whatever with that guy. Like all these cards, like there are a lot of silver border cards that are just kind of dumb.
Are you
but they're
talking about
fun.
Grusilda Monster Masher? Is that the card?
No,
No.
that's the black red Monster Mash card.
Yeah.
I'll find it. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, but I agree. Clear it out with your playgroup. That's just what basically rules there is, and of course we're just talking about very specific examples.
Surgeon General Commander.
Surgeon General Commander. That's what it is.
He's a Wombat Bat Chameleon.
What color is he?
He's
all
so
five.
he's mono green. He's
green
3
and
and
taps for all
green.
5.
But he's
Yeah,
a
that
legendary
one.
creature, Wombat Bat Chameleon. Whenever you augment is the thing I'm thinking of. Enchant or mutate a creature you control, draw a card, and he's a 3/3 that taps for one of each color or one of any color. But it specifically spells out like add white, blue, black, red, or green instead of saying add one of any color, so that he is a 5-color commander by color identity rules. So.
That's
Yeah,
fun.
he's actually really cool. I think there's a person in our local meta that built him.
Yep,
And they
5-color mutate.
They just play all of the comic book art, right? Like all of the sweet mutate
Yeah.
cards and stuff. Because mutate's such a cool mechanic. Like personally, it's one of my favorites from the past couple of years. It is a blast. And you just get to play a bunch of like really dumb. Like a lot of the mutate cards are kind of stupid, but being able to do that or whatever is really cool. And I personally just think that, like, especially because they made commanders that are kind of like, or they made legendary creatures in the unsets or whatever that are like that, where like they're designed around specific mechanics. Just, I don't think any of them break the game. I honestly don't think that Baron von Count breaks the game at all either. So like,
I think
go
like
nuts.
Phoebe is probably the closest one to breaking the game.
Right, you're
She's the
not
one that
really.
steals text boxes.
Oh, that
yeah,
one.
takes
Yeah, that card's
text boxes.
weird. Yeah, it's just got a lot of like, but I mean, even Marasil does that a little bit, right? Where like,
Yeah,
they have the
That's true.
Marasil has the text of every card, or these all the activated abilities of all the cards that you've put cage counters on or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know.
I will say that if you do want to do this, one, obviously clear it with your playgroup or you know, but I think most playgroups are accepting because you're not going to have like CDH Surgeon General probably.
Probably
Probably.
not.
I mean, you could probably make them kind of busted if you really worked on it, but for the most part, most of these like silver borders aren't going to be super powerful. But I think another thing is very important if you are going to play with silver border cards is to make sure you understand how the rule interaction
Oh
works with
boy,
those cards.
yeah, some of them are kind of wonky.
The only time I have been upset when someone has a silver border card, and I don't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but it was something that did something weird, and they just didn't know how the card worked with like anything. And I was like, you need to do if you're going to do something like this that's kind of janky and just completely offbeat, know how it interacts first, so that way I'm not sitting there for 20 minutes and we're all looking on our phones trying to figure out the ruling because no one really understands.
Like
exactly
if you're gonna build X as your commander,
yeah.
look up how that card works at first before you start willy-nilly throwing that kind of stuff around. It just, I don't know. I think that it's kind of fun to have some of these kind of wonky cards. Now, clearly, a deck full of silver border cards likely going to be a little crazy,
That's a little bit much.
but
Yeah.
sometimes it's fine because most of the silver border cards are not that busted. Like, I think if you built the legendary guy that worries about rolling dice, and you play a bunch of the rolling dice cards,
which one? The big idea or Old Buzzbark?
probably Old Buzzspark. That's the one I'm
Old
thinking of. The red
Old
green one.
Buzzbark's a little weird because you have to roll dice from a certain height.
Oh yeah, the dexterity ones are a little much sometimes.
Yeah, you can't play them.
But
Oh,
I remember
the big-
once just like playing a game where someone was playing a falling star, and honestly, I've never laughed so hard at a game of Commander ever because he was just like, "I'm going to cast Falling Star." This card's clearly banned, right? So Falling Star, for those of you who aren't aware, is banned in literally every format,
Yeah.
including Vintage, because it's a dexterity card, and it states it's 2 and a red sorcery. You flip it onto the table from the playing area from a height of at least 1 foot. It deals 3 damage to each creature that it lands on. You tap all of those creatures that are dealt damage by it, and if it doesn't turn completely over at least once during the flip, it has no effect, right? And so
Yeah.
It's a
we
dumb
we
card.
knew that he was gonna play it. Like we knew that it was in his deck, and he casts it, and we're like, I mean, yeah, I guess that resolves, right? Because the ruling with dexterity cards, especially like this one, is as soon as it starts resolving, you can't move the battlefield at all, right? You can only
Yeah,
do that
everything
stuff while it's on the stack.
everything has just a second once it's resolving. You
Yeah,
can't move it.
can't move it. So he casts it or whatever. We're all like, sure. And so it like passes around the table. We're all like looking at our board of a couple creatures. We're like, oh no, where's he gonna flip it or whatever? He reaches across the table and flips it, and it drops on the one zombie token that has the like 40 dice on it or whatever, depicting that there's like 2,000 of them. Deals 3 to all the zombies because they're all in that one card.
all in that
and
one
it's
spot.
like, boom, zombies are dead. And it was just so funny to like, oh man. I lost it. It was so
Falling
much
Star,
fun.
the best way to counter Field of the Dead, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Well, unless
like
they've
the
got a bunch of
classic-
zombie tokens, they're just stacking them
The
up.
classic
This,
dexterity
kids, is
card
why
is
you
like the
always
Chaos
represent
Sword.
all your tokens.
Yep.
That's called next leveling, and I
It
love
was
it.
so. It was honestly the funniest thing ever. The person, and you guys know who I'm talking about when I say Dan. Dan was the person with a bunch of zombies, and man, was he upset.
Dan always gets screwed over like that. Things
He
like
just doesn't. Yeah, I just didn't understand. Well, this was the same game where he had asked about taking off his jeans in the middle of the store because the guy also played the denim walk creature. He's wearing jeans. Oh boy.
I will say, I love on Scryfall, Falling Star says it must flip like a coin and not like a frisbee. I love that.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
Very
in the
specific
ruling.
clarification.
Yeah, they basically they kept trying to make this card work in competitive formats, and they just decided to give up and just ban it.
They gave up a long time ago.
If it's banned in Vintage, you know that it's like just functionally doesn't work, or it's Lurus. But
honestly, I really wish that they would go back to, because like they started making rules for the newer uncards, but a lot of the older uncards or whatever they didn't.
Well,
make
I mean, old Buzzbark has rulings.
That's because he's a newer one.
Yeah.
One of his rulings on the
Unglued and
19th
Unhinged don't have any.
on the 19th of January, dice rolled from old Buzzbark can't be greater than 1 inch in width. Yes, we've seen how rolling millions of dice from orbit will destroy Earth. Please don't do this. We just bought a house.
I love that. That's funny.
And then I did link this for Surgeon General Commander. He was printed before Mutate was a thing, so he was kind of like a preview card, like a future side card, which
They
is
did
really
that.
cool.
Like Tarmogoyf did that with Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mutate is a keyword from the future, unless you're reading this after it's been released, in which case it's spooky music, a keyword from the present spooky music. But I suppose you could be reading this in a theoretical future in which the keyword was released, threatened to destroy magic, as I do occasionally, and removed from the game, in which case it's spookier music, a keyword from the past.
You know what? That is not really predicted the future just with a wrong mechanic.
Yeah.
But they have to set right.
That's really funny. Anyway. Yeah, rule 0. Play the cards you want. Have fun.
I want to play my Mox Lotus. Add infinite to your mana pool.
Don't play Shahrazad because no one wants that.
Do that. Also, don't play Enter the Dungeon. People don't clean their feet. Don't do that.
Don't play anything that involves clothes.
A lot of the time,
power and toughness.
half power
How
stuff
about
is
the
kind of
one,
dumb, but
the one for glasses?
Yeah.
oh gosh.
I'm
play the
playing that.
booster pack one because that one can be really fun.
Play the
Oh,
booster
yeah.
pack one, but oh boy, you got to make sure you got legions in there. Gotta
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure
Fade
Gotta
or
make sure it's
bust.
legions.
that
Completely
honestly-
unrelated to Commander. For 3 seconds though, if you throw in a random unstable pack into just a normal booster draft, you will have a very fun time.
Oh, it's
Oh yeah, we did that once in a chaos draft.
Well, we actually that's actually where this story comes from that I think is hilarious because this is the first time a couple of older friends of ours they were in the shop for one of their first few times. I had never really met them. They were playing at a table. They played a draft because they were bored and we were playing Commander and they were like, "What can we do that would be fun?" And I was like, "You guys just go get boosters, any boosters you want, right? You got money to spend. Go buy some boosters, do a booster draft, play a stupid 4-player game. It'll be a blast." And so a couple of them got uncards, right? So they start like drafting these uncards, and one guy gets the one where you get to add a booster to the game. Like you open it up, you get all the creatures, and you put them into play. And so they're sitting down at this table, they're playing this game or whatever, and he slams it on the table. And he like looks over at us and he's like, "What booster do I get?" And I'm like, go get legions. It's the whole set's creatures. You'll have 15 creatures. And so he gets up and runs into the other room to grab a pack of legions. And I go, there is a problem with that, though. There is a moment where you might just die. So he gets the pack and he opens it. And he flips them one card at a time. Last card, fades the untouchable, dies. Because it enters play without casting. And I was like, I didn't think it was going to happen, but that's hilarious.
That's like the one problem
died.
with that.
That's awesome.
Well, like, he still wins in the end because he now owns a phage from Legions.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, he like that. The pack was fine. It was just a bunch of like all the cards from Legions are garbage. Like all the creatures are very medium. But it was really funny because you just put 15 creatures into play, and sometimes you die to a phage the untouchable.
Sometimes you die to phage. Yeah. It's like a deck of many things, except for most of the things are really bad, and one of them just kills you.
One of them just happens to kill you. Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, that sounds like the deck of many things, anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point.
Oh boy, yes. Oh, and a point and we're very off topic. That's fine. We're just talking.
I mean, it's the whole point of Rule 0 is that
you're supposed to have a ton of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to touch on, just kind of like an important piece, is that I don't think that there's a single planeswalker that, as your commander, is a problem.
Well,
the most powerful one is Tezzeret the Seeker, and it's just worse to Fairy.
Yeah.
Exactly. In Kaldheim, we're basically going to get a planeswalker that can be a commander.
I actually think that this is Wizards' way of saying you should, like, this is Wizards' way of pointing at the RC and being like, let this happen, because like they're doing that with a lot of cards, right? There's a creature enchantment that can be your commander. There's
creature
creature equipment that can be your commander.
There's a vehicle.
The creature planeswalker, the creature vehicle. Yeah, like there's all this stuff that's like, allow this to be your commander. Because it's dumb that you're not letting it.
I mean, if you're playing Valky, you're probably going to play the Tibalt side late game, and it's going to be really good.
I mean, Valky is cool.
I think Valky by himself is a solid commander card.
Yeah, it's a good card.
I don't think he's
I prefer Tibalt,
but he's pretty cool. The original Tibalt?
I prefer 7 mana Tibalt.
What you don't want?
I prefer the original OG.
2 mana Piker that can transform into a Tali or something.
I mean, that would be pretty fun. Yeah.
Gross.
Or an Uro.
No,
I love
the
that
only planeswalker I wouldn't
Loki.
The only planeswalker I wouldn't want to play with is probably 3 Fairy, and that's just because it's annoying. But I mean,
he doesn't like that card.
I just really hate that card
in the command zone.
I don't think it's amazing.
want...
you can definitely do some blocks with it, but it's still annoying.
I want to play Legendary Enchantments as my commander.
It would be the only... Which one?
All of them.
All of them? Like, I think
Sky
Genju
Sovereign
is
is my
cool.
commander.
Yeah, go for it, man.
I want to play Argul's
Bloodfast.
Bloodfast.
Vehicle deck, go for it.
Can I play Argul's Bloodfast as my commander? It becomes a land.
Can I play Jitte as my commander?
No, not allowed to play Jitte as your commander. Knock that off.
It'd just be like an Infinity deck, wouldn't it? Because
it would just be Infinity.
It's literally just a colorless Infinity.
I want to play Bow of Nylea as my commander. That'd be amazing.
I want to play Search for Cancer.
If you want to do whatever you want to do, man. If your playgroup allows it, go for it. I don't think there's a single card where if you put it in the command zone, it's too powerful. Like, I think maybe some of the instants and sorceries are kind of dumb. Like you don't want to play against the mono blue.
Just play Oathbreaker if you want to play instants and sorceries out of your command zone.
I don't think you want to play against a guy who just has a Brawl deck, but instead of Brawl, he has Brainstorm as his commander. Like, I don't think you really want that one.
No, like, they have to be legendary instants or sorceries. You can't just pick
Urza's Ruinous Blast.
Urza's Ruinous Blast. Let's go.
Mono White Legends. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Jesus Christ! All right.
But like, I think there's a lot of cards that, like, if you put them in the command zone, chances are pretty high. They're not that good. They're probably pretty medium. No matter how powerful you think they are. Like,
and put Runetail kits. Wait, so if it's a legendary enchantment on its other side.
Oh, those flip cards or whatever from Kamigawa. Yeah, I believe that those should be.
I played against a Badoga Gardener deck.
Yeah. Oh, Badoga Gardener's sweet, actually. Or
it's pretty decent.
What's the one? There's another one that actually is allowed to be your commander because they made a cycle of legendaries. They were legendary on both sides or whatever. Like the green version.
You can't play the blue one.
Funky. Yeah, the blue one's banned.
I mean, that one is like, you're gonna ask someone, like, hey, can I play this as a commander? And they're probably gonna say no because it's just like
because it's blue and it counters cards.
One of the blue one's actually banned.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it-
well, it's
Rhino is
banned, but
banned.
like Rule 0 can also apply to the ban list. You could
Well, also, yeah, that's another thing too, is because there are a lot of people out there that disagree with a lot of the cards on the ban list, us included.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have
Coalition
Coalition
believe me, we're
victory.
gonna have a whole episode on that one.
we could do
Um,
like a thing where we're like, what cards should we ban?
what cards should be banned, what cards should
Yeah.
stop being banned, maybe like
Yeah,
Coalition
like that.
Victory.
Coalition
Why
victory.
is Coalition Victory
Paradox
banned, though?
Engine.
Because
can
it
come
wins
off
the game
No,
out of
stop.
nowhere.
Okay, stop.
No, Engine,
No.
Engine actually
Engine
deserves to be on the
stays.
list.
I like
fair-
Engine, and Engine stays.
To be
And
fair,
Paradox Engine
Coalition
doesn't
victory
even listen,
is
it's
against
fine.
the philosophy of a card shouldn't just win the game out of nowhere, but that's stupid.
Yeah.
So many that do that now.
Have you
Yeah,
seen the
exactly.
new cards they printed? I think
Have you
so
read
far, Grandmaster would be a great card. That would be a commander.
Oh,
I actually
yeah,
really
yeah.
want that.
All of the cards from Fate Reforged that were like that. So like I'm trying to think of the Mardu one.
Who?
Like
Ankle Shanker?
no, not Ankle Shaker. They're all like one color, and then they have
Oh, yeah, the
Yeah,
hybrid
too.
ones.
the hybrid.
Yeah, those are super. Those are
Oh,
all.
are you talking
those
about
are really
Lesha who
fun.
smiles at death?
No,
No, the
not
non-legendary
the
ones.
The non-legendary ones.
Those cards
I
are
have
really
no
cool,
idea.
though. I think
Are they
that
from Fate Reforged? Or
they're
are they
from
They're from Fate
Fate
Reforged.
Yeah, Fate Reforged. I think they all could be commanders. They're all super cool.
Yeah,
Torrent Elemental is the Soul Tile one.
yeah. Torrent Elementals.
What is its base color? Do you know?
It's
what's the
red.
color? It's
Oh.
red.
Yeah, it's red, black, white. Like black and white is the obvious one.
Let me see if I can find it, and then you guys.
It's Shaman of the Great Hunt.
Shaman
the
of the Great
teamer
Hunt
one.
is the teamer one, and then there's the
Warden of the First Tree is the Abzan one, and
Yep.
Brutal Horde Chief is the Mardu.
Brutal Horde Chief. Like those cards are really cool because they're good 3-color commander options that like obviously aren't legendary or whatever,
Yeah.
but they're neat effects that like you just don't see
Yeah.
as a commander.
I like how
So-
these are the mythics, and then the legendaries with the same thing, like the same color idea with
identity
the-
and ideas
a
and
base,
stuff.
a base with hybrid effects are the
Are
rares.
rares, yeah.
Yeah, and Brutal Horde Chief sucks. So.
We talking about it's great for a token. It's actually really good for a token.
It's alright for tokens.
Yeah, I mean,
That
it's
Forge
just-
was kind of weak. That whole set was kind of weak, to be fair. But
Fate Reforged.
What?
Eh.
It had Ugin in it.
It had
Okay.
Ugin,
Name
It had-
another powerful card.
Monastery
Caster.
Mentor.
All right, name 5 powerful cards.
All right,
No,
all right,
no,
all right.
no,
Ugin, Monastery Mentor, Tassiger, Torrent Elementals, a food chain combo piece, right? And
Soulfire Grandmaster.
Soulfire
Gurmag
Grandmaster.
Angler.
Whisperwood Elemental.
Gurmag Angler is not
Gurmag
Fate
Angler.
Reforged.
Isn't it? Oh no, it's Dragon.
No, it's
It's
Dragon.
cons.
Or whatever.
I thought it was Dragon.
No, it's
All right, no, it can't be Dragons.
Oh, Hooting Angels is Fate Reforged, though, right?
Oh,
That's actually pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Hooting Mangel's a good card. I like that.
Fate
Card.
Reforged is a good set. Okay.
the siege cycle.
They have
Oh,
temporal
it's from
trust.
cons. It's from
Temporal
cons. It's from
trespass is
cons.
one.
Temporal
Let's go.
Trespass, that's Fate Reforged.
Yes. All right.
No,
Let's talk
I
about
want
Fate
to. I want to
Reforged.
continue this. Let's talk about how good Fate Reforged is.
No, we're
Let's
talking about
not
Rule
talk
Zero,
about
not
that.
Fate Reforged,
All
and proving
right.
Kalen wrong.
Obviously, Heart Piercer Bow is a really good card, right, guys?
Hold on. Tamir Sabretooth is from Fate Reforged. That
That's
is a
true,
very, very powerful
That's
card
true,
in
too.
Commander.
Okay.
All right,
Moving
all
on. Yeah, I think if your play group allows you to, and they should, but I think it's one thing to really have a discussion about with your play group. And if your play group doesn't want to do this, that's fine too, right?
Yeah,
if you and
it
your play
literally
group
says-
doesn't want to follow rules, like if you guys just want to play Commander the way that Commander is supposed to be played per the rules or whatever, go for it. Like whatever is fun to you, do it. That's how Magic is supposed to
To
be.
be fair, literally the way Commander is supposed to be played is how you want to play it.
Yeah. Make sure you're
I
having
don't know
fun.
why they removed Rule Zero from their website, and it might just show that the RC doesn't care about Rule Zero anymore, or the idea of it being this format you can do whatever you want with, and it's kind of sad, but do Rule
Yeah.
Zero. It's fun.
I think
Rule
part of the
Zero.
Rule Zero that we haven't maybe gone into as much detail yet that I'd like to cover before we wrap it up is definitely discussing your power levels beforehand, especially in unknown groups
Yes.
or just people that might not know you. Power levels are somewhat subjective. People have tried and tried again to make an actual
Don't-
definitive list.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to start with like, hey, you guys okay with combos, like infinite combos? And if everyone at the table says no, then well, that should take out some number of decks that you probably
Well,
have.
Never.
Time to pull out mono green aggro.
Yeah. Don't be
Well,
like.
Yeah.
Don't be
Don't try
like
and-
1 to 10. Never do the 1 to 10 thing. Personally.
Well, I think you can do a 1 to 10 as long as you start having other defining features as well.
Yeah.
One to 10 is a great way to discuss power level if everyone understands
That's what 1 to
the
10
differences
means.
is.
Yeah,
Because
I usually,
everybody has a different definition of 1 to 10.
I usually go from like pre-con to CEDH. Where do you think your deck lies?
I usually just say my deck has removal and is trying to win, so do with that as what you may.
Yeah.
It's
And you
the-
don't.
yeah.
I think you don't have to go sit there and like, well, I have this combo and this combo and this combo in my deck, and you don't need to necessarily give every single little bit of information about your deck up. At least before the game begins. But at the same time, it's still good to be like, are you guys okay with infinite combos at this table? And if everyone says no, then perhaps you should not play infinite combos because you're gonna be the person who you probably combos off and wins and kills the table, and then everyone else is like, cool, go away, we're going to keep playing the game or whatever. Like, it's play to what the table wants to do, and if you're unhappy with that, move to a different table. Like, it's
And I
really
understand.
simple.
I do understand that there's a lot of people who don't have that option, right?
Yeah.
They don't have the option to go to a different table, but a play group still needs to discuss and go over power level. Like, that's why I like having a couple of decks that have different power levels. So when I sit down at a table, I can ask the people playing, if I don't know them, what level are we playing at? And if they say lower power level, I can pull out something stupid.
Yeah.
Like 5-color Eldrazi.
Yeah.
All right, well, that deck is a masterpiece, so let's not...
I don't
Let's
know if
not
that's
talk.
stupid. That
Well,
sounds
it can be a
gross.
masterpiece and low power.
Morifon reduces all the devoid cost. Anyway, it's really
Sure
cool.
does.
The deck's cool.
Okay, sure, bud, sure.
It's fun.
No, but
It's fun again.
I do think it's just important just to do that, and also to be respectful about that. Like, I've asked that before. I'm like, hey, are you guys okay with infinite combos? And one person's like, ugh, no one plays infinite combos here. I'm like, all right, that's a rude thing to do, and a lot of people play it, right? But like the vice versa too, where it'd be like, well, I don't have an infinite combo in my deck, and then like belittling that person at the same time is also very much against the spirit of the game. So I
Be-
think it's
be
be
nice.
polite, be respectful, and like have a conversation without necessarily telling them every last way of how your deck works. Be like, hey, is everyone okay with mass land destruction? Because some people don't like playing against mass land destruction. It's a completely viable strategy, and you're welcome to play it into a group that's willing to play at that level of play. But if you sit down and everyone there is playing basically a pre-con or slightly better, and you rip out your Lord Windgrace competitive mass land destruction deck or whatever, you're being a pub stomper, and that's, I don't know what joy you get out from that.
The good takeaway from this episode, and I think this is a good place to maybe end it,
Yeah.
is the great, perfect takeaway from this is that you should communicate with your playgroup.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
That is a very important thing, and you should always ask them, what they think is what they're comfortable with. Like, for example, we have someone here who plays Lutri as their commander or their companion or something.
It's the commander.
I think it's
I
their
think everyone
commander.
agrees not to let it as a companion.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a good card and it's fun, but I don't think I've ever seen it be broken, right?
No.
And then there's people like myself who play Planeswalkers as commanders. There are people who play uncards. There are people who, do various dumb things that they think are fun. They're allowed to do it because we have discussions about it. We talk about it and we say, hey, we think this is either too good or not good enough or whatever. Go for it. That kind of thing. So the two important takeaways I'm going to make: A, talk with your playgroup. B, Fate Reforged was a really great set. Like, Crux of Fate is in that set too.
Exactly.
It's just
German
like,
Angler is in Fate Reforged.
is it Fate Reforged? Oh, even
Yes.
better. Oh, so is Teamer Battle Rage.
Yeah.
Yeah, to
You
be,
guys suck.
Kalen was wrong to say that Fate Reforged was a
You
bad
guys
set.
suck. I hate you.
Was Cons the bad set from that block, or was it Dragons?
Dragons.
Cons was no, Dragons was fine. It just sucked as a limited format because
Yeah.
every creature flew. Like, flying did not matter because every creature had flying.
They fly now.
Everything flies. There's so many dragons. Anyway, I'm not gonna complain about dragons. I think we've made a bunch of very important points. I think this has been a fun episode where we were not on topic the entire time, and it was great. So
we were not on
Not
topic
on
the entire
topic.
time.
I'm Austin, joined by Kaylin, Alex, and Jason, and we are back to basics. So we will see you guys in the next episode. Have a good one,
Yeah.
everybody.
See you.
See you later.
See ya.